And survey says, what were your Star Trek surprises for 2020? Yeah, that's all today on Trekland Tuesdays Live with me, Dr. Trek, Larry Nemecek, coming at you from the heart of Trekland right through Portal 47 for the big picture, clarity, and sanity in all things Star Trek. Welcome, everybody. It's another Tuesday. It's another Tuesday, and aren't you glad we turned the calendar page into 2021? Yeah, we're in an era now where we've finished up Discovery. We have weeks of mini fallow time ahead of us and lots to talk about in Star Trek. So I took one last look back. I polled my Trekland E-list audience, and then I threw it up on the Facebook page today about what was your biggest surprise from all of 2020 in Star Trek, either on screen, behind the scenes, in merchandise, in fandom. What was it? And we got a few answers back. I'm going to share those in a minute. But hey, if you're new, if you haven't seen the chat yet already, we have a great Tuesday Lifer community. So jump in there. I'm going to get to direct chat interaction after the midway break. And I always say that. If you're watching us later on YouTube, this is all you see. But if you're live or if you catch the Facebook archive, yeah, I rant here on my soapbox, and then we take a short break, and then I come back. We look at the Parrot Analytics TV ratings of streaming TV in the US for the week, and then we hit the chat full bore. So I've been doing this coming up on, it'll be 4 years in March or April. I have to go back and check. This is episode 189. We've taken 2 weeks off in all that time. So, hey, glad to see you, Star Trek. Let's get to it. Yeah. I was thrilled. I sent two. If you're not on my list, go over to LarryNemecek.com. I do surveys and polls and throw things out there early or ahead of time sometime. So I heard back from a lot of folks. And again, get in line. If you're new to us, I'll try to shout out new when we get to chat in a little bit, looking at questions and conversation. But feel free to stir up a storm before I look at it directly. But I want to share some of these. I want to jump right into it. I don't even have full names for some folks, but there you go. So Brian Stevenson said the biggest surprise for him was the Discovery episode Terra Firma Part 2 and The Guardian of Forever. Love this episode. It was also a bit of a shock seeing Mira Georgiou become more like her counterpart. Yeah, it was a shock for a lot of people to see how everybody on Discovery suddenly loved the Empress. He says, I can't get enough Discovery. The writing and characters breathe new life into my beloved Star Trek with each new episode. Yeah, Terra Firma Part 2 and The Guardian of Forever. Well, Carl, and seeing him detached somehow from Clark County Sheriff's Department, from CSI, Paul Guilford. Everybody knew he was either a Q or the Guardian connected, or something, or some all new TOS style mega super race that have not mentioned. So it wasn't a total surprise to have him Guardian connected, but yeah, when we digitized up a Guardian of Forever, and they went, as I said the other day, they went and used the original voice, the original audio. That was pretty awesome. That was pretty amazing. It threw me back to when they used the footage of Talos 4 and the Telosians from the cage on Discovery last season 2. That was kind of a shock, yes. And a good job on not leaking. It was obvious that something was going to go that way, but to go to that specific a choice was a total shock, and good on everybody at CBS for keeping that from leaking somehow. Yeah. So I bet that was a common surprise. Again, we're asking the biggest Trek surprises of 2020 across the spectrum. Russ Myers, with an S, says, I was surprised and disappointed that CBS Viacom hasn't produced Discovery role-play props or even a full line of action figures. They're kind of coming out. Funko is doing a couple, but I know what you mean. And here's the thing. Everybody in CBS merchandising and licensing, CBS Viacom consumer products. I don't know. It's not Viacom anymore. That was my days of hands-on. But whatever they're calling now, CBS Global Brand, all our friends there, of course, they want everything Star Trek all over the place. The thing that a lot of fans don't realize is this is a two-way street. And CBS/Viacom is in the business of licensing and overseeing. They don't manufacture most items, toys, whatever, books, games. They got to have the original manufacturers do it. And they've got to have the original manufacturers be interested in seeing it as a moneymaker. Now, I'm not saying that nothing Star Trek is a moneymaker. It's more, and things lean to, you're talking about money. So things lean to the conservative side. So everything Kirk, Spock, and McCoy, everything Picard, Data, Riker, Troy, Geordi, Worf, yes, Beverly. Those are the easy bets. And people who are, hey, Voyager fans, Niners, Enterprise people, what it's like trying to find toys and games and items from your favorites, much less the current crop. So it's a two-way street, Russ, and CBS can't wave a magic wand and just have merchandise lining up. It depends on them reading the tea leaves of what's popular out there. So yeah, the more buzz there is, and and there's mass sale and there's niche market, right? And you can appeal on price points to different things. So some of this is just going to take a time to accumulate. I mean, how many years of next gen went by before anything appeared? I mean, like we didn't get to do the companion. That didn't come up as a thing until the 5th season. Mike and Rick started to write the tech manual in the 4th season of Next Gen. So it took the best of both worlds breakthrough, and then a year before anybody started going, well, maybe this is worth investing a little money in for a payback. We don't lose our shirts. So, and these are short seasons. They come and go. The whole world, creators, audience, advertisers, associated people, we're all getting used to what streaming is like still in serialized, much less what Star Trek streaming serialized looks like. And that's the way of the world right now, aside from films. So we're there. You can't swim upstream and fight that. So where everybody's feeling, and that's just another ramification of it. But yeah, of course, we'd all love to. Everybody at CBS, our friend John and Marion and Veronica, everybody would love to see tons of Star Trek merchandise. So we've just, I don't want to say we're held hostage to everybody go watch more often or jump in online so that it shows up higher in the parrot ratings. I don't, we're just there. And some of this may come in time. Some of it just comes with accumulation. And these seasons aren't accumulating 26 at a time. They're only accumulating 12, 13, 14, 15 at a time. 10 in the case of Picard and Lower Decks. So we'll see, but good point. Good point. Okay. Brian with a Y wrote me and said, this wasn't a formalized survey, guys. This was like open-ended, just write me back. So thank you to everybody who did write back. Brian with a Y says the most surprising thing to him was the arrival of the Troy Rikers and the Titan at the end of the Lower Decks. Considering how much of the newer shows has been revealed, figure out ahead of time, I'm pleasantly surprised that the cameo was kept secret. Again, another one. And it's like the nature of animation. Just think about it for a minute. Think how fewer human hands are a part of any animated series than live action. You've got a crew of 100 standing around ahead of time and live. And then in post, think how many different eyeballs there are. That's why it's really insane to be able to keep anything a secret on live action. It was a little easier, I think, with The Guardian of Forever because the payoff, the visual, was all digital. So, and there were very few people out there filming those days. There's the script flow, that end of things. But yeah, it's easier to keep secrets in animation. But yeah, just on the nature of the things, the Troy Rikers and the Titan, everybody was so full of Nepenthe live action on Picard. No one was expecting that really. So it was awesome. And it played perfectly. It played perfectly. They both looked incredible in animated form, especially Deanna. I just love her little counselor's eyes, AKA bedroom eyes, and underplaying it, come a long way since, pain and joy and great gratitude. We'll talk later. And sorry, I'm spoiling that for the Brits, not really, and the Europeans, but you'll have your time coming very soon. Hey, are they rolling it all out week by week with you guys, or is it just going to dump as one? Because that would be crazy to do it week by week at this point, but nothing surprises me. There may be formula that tell them that that's still smarter. I don't know, with the vast majority of people that didn't have other means to be supportive fans. So there we go. Let me come down here. Hey, Dan Leckie says his biggest surprise for Trek in 2020 was finding an exclusive news story on the Klingons in Discovery. And despite having Asperger's syndrome, which makes social communication difficult for me, really enjoyed interviewing Trek experts such as yourself. Aw, on my new YouTube channel, The Scotch Trekker. Great way to slide that in there, Dan, but it's okay. It's okay. Congratulations to you for doing that. Exclusive news story on the Klingons in Discovery. Yes. And I'm just going to leave it there, guys. Everybody go over to the Scotch Trekker and see Dan's show. We'll see that. Jesse Tagger, find out what's going on with that. And yes, I did a show for the Scotch Trekker too, which was a lot of fun. We went back to the Prophecy roots, I believe, the Voyager show that my wife and I sold, and did a fresh take on it. It's been a while since I've told that story on camera, I guess. Okay, Jesse Taggart. While there has always been a resistance to the new, I find surprising the level of all or nothing backlash from the vocal minority. All or nothing, which was interesting. It was like we got into a triangulation here. That was my word. He says, those with the polarized views either seem to see the new editions as complete garbage or the best Star Trekker ever completely, outshining the classic series. I love discovering all the series, he says. But I'm an old school nitpicker who grew up on Star Trek during the 90s. I'm not blind to the flaws that pop up in the production of the show with all the filmic concerns they face, but I still enjoy the stories being told. It's like it's still in the family, right? Right? Phil Ferrand, would a nitpicker's guide to Discovery, would it get his house bombed these days? Is that what you're saying? I don't know. I still think, guys, a lot of this is just that we're living with social media, and it feels louder and it's amped up. And I think there's a lot of gloss. 340 characters, is that it? Whatever it is. Twitter, people are jamming out YouTube videos with screaming headlines to get your attention to eyeballs to go click on that, even if you only watch for, the 3 seconds or the 5 seconds or the 30 seconds. I still think a lot of the noise is just that noise. I think everything is pretty much the same as it's always been, the loud 10%, and that's fine. I just think, as we talked about a couple of years ago with that USC study, I think there's a bogus 10% of negativity that's in it just for the money. And maybe the really, really enabled ego weirdness that social media allows. And, oh, look, I have a voice and I can go scream, even if it's ugly. I'm getting attention. But I don't even think I think a lot of it's just crass, points, money making. But the effect on the rest of us means that everything just feels louder. And to some dark corners of the interwebs, that's the whole point, to make us feel a little more depressed. Even in our fun stuff, much less, important stuff like running the world. So yeah, I think overall, as the dust settles, eventually the vast 80-90% of fandom, many of whom who are not online, many of whom define fandom. But many folks, when they actually get to go to a con, or they show up on virtual Zooming, a lot of them for the first time never even got to go to a live con. So many armchair fans are unaware of all of this Sturm and Drang. And they just watch the show, and they may critique the shows, and they may be old fans who have what they like and what they don't like, but they're still watching. And that's what you're saying, Jesse. I think that fandom is alive and well. It's just we've turned it up to 11 when people can't complain, they do. It's not so much their fault. People are entitled. But yeah, the all or nothing. I think that's I think a lot of the garbage is, I don't know. I think it's still combined with the streaming aspect and the fact that we had 12 fallow years, and I don't know. I don't know. I think a lot of the disgruntlement was until the years go by and it all blends together eventually. Like the Next Generation era finally was reconciled with the original series for people that just couldn't take that or understand it. And some of it's just time going by. It's just that everything is, and you know what? No one cared about the original series except Star Trek fans. But now we have a whole geek culture. And Star Trek is not just for Star Trek fans. The mainstream world is taking notice, and the rest of the geek industry is taking notice. So there's like multiple levels for Star Trek to be dissected by loving fans, by totally disinterested people, and people who just enjoy being loud. So it's a different situation, but I'm going to say that the vast majority of everybody, hooked in or not, is still pretty much the same. And yes, in family, we all like to poke fun at each other. And a lot of it's done lovingly. I would still say most of it's done lovingly. What I do is done lovingly. Would I rather have a current version of Trek on, even with occasional flaws from time to time, and other things that surprise me and delight me, than to not have any Trek at all? Well, yeah. Yes, I would. Is that such a bold, brave statement today? I'm sorry. Anyway. But that has surprised a lot of more silent people. The people that are, talk to anybody in customer service. The people that are satisfied never come in and tell you how satisfied they are. You only hear from the complaints. So that's just translated to the volume level of social. Let's get back to it here. Darren Burgess said, the merchandise that surprised me the most was last year was the UK commemorating the 50th anniversary of the original series airing there. The Royal Mail, yes, issuing a series of stamps associated with items that prominently featured, well, they had the leads. Oh, I wish I'd had this out. The leads, and then the Brits who'd been in Star Trek. And then what didn't get much attention, there's a side issue of the Brits who had been, and I didn't even think about it this way, but of course, perspective is everything. The Brits who had been guest characters, especially across the movies, when you think about it. Yeah, it was like a souvenir sheet for those philatelists out there. Anyway, and thank you once again, Rebecca, for sending me a nice little bonus Christmas of those stamps. Anyway, so Darren has said that the UK Star Trek stamp issue, which had the leads and also the Brits of Star Trek, was crazy. But it was like, here's I don't know, here's Shazad Latif getting an issue at the same time that Jimmy Doohan's Canadian, and it was the Commonwealth. So here's Jimmy. Here's people that have been around Star Trek for ages, never got a stamp, and they're getting one at the same time the people have been around Star Trek for a couple of years got a stamp. So it's all good. It's all good. I just didn't know about that. Yes. He said last year was the first non-book or soundtrack related item that he'd purchased in a while. And runner-up on the surprise to the stamps would be the Voyager Celebration book by Ben Robinson and Mark Wright, and the art and visual effects of the motion picture by Jeff Bond and Gene Kazicki. Gene Kazicki. Running out of shelving again. Yeah, we had an awesome slate of books toward the end of the year. So good on them. Yay. Let me see. Another one here from Frankie Dawn Engelbert, one of my portales. She said, what surprised me in 2020 about Star Trek was how good the Lower Decks series was. I really expected it to be a campy cartoon series. Frankie, I think you are not alone at all. I knew the show would be, I knew from the showrunner on down there, and based on, good grief, I don't have anything where it's supposed to be. But based on Warped, right, the unseen 8th season there, Mike McMahon's book. I knew it would be the sense of humor, and yeah, and people were worried about Rick and Morty. Well, it's two franchises, guys. They're not going to copy each other. I knew the tone and the writing would be great. What surprised me about Lower Decks was, oh my God, the specificity in the visuals. Now I get why it took 2 years to do 10 episodes, half-hour episodes. It was a pleasant shock, but I think, yeah, people overall were surprised. You had to ramp up the tone. We said it's akin to your ear getting used to the first 10 minutes of a Shakespeare play at first. And then once your ear gets, it's like the universal translator, audio style. Once your ear gets attuned to it and you're in sync, then you're fine. You're fine. And I think everybody took a minute to get revved up to the Lower Decks pace. And I think there's more canon, visual and verbal and conceptual. There's more canon packed into a half hour of a Lower Decks episode of spouting and running past and the visuals than there is in some of the hour-long shows of episodes of the other series, the live-action new ones. So yeah, Lower Decks, a pleasant surprise for everybody on a lot of levels. So good on Mike and that whole team, and let's hope that, being animation, we get season 2 sooner than later. They're already done writing it. They're in process now. So, and he's been out talking a lot about it around here. We'll get him corralled on a Trek Book channel here eventually. And a Paul, no last name Paul, sorry. Paul just says, who's off the list. Paul, I mean, I didn't not mean to mention some of you folks' last names, but that's all I had. Even on the mail list, that's all I have. So, but Paul said, the fact that we got to watch any new Trek at all. Consider how many studios are holding back their catalog till things get better. Yeah. Some of that was timing. Like Discovery Season 3 had just wrapped up filming when the pandemic shutdowns happened last March. And then they had to creep through post-production, especially with recording music. But because post-production now is so decentralized and people working at home and can do that. But the music was a hassle. We're pioneering new technology, new procedures here. You know, out of adversity comes invention. What's the mother of invention? Yeah. So yeah, it is amazing. And then of course having animated series on deck helped as well. And it may be a while before we see what's going to happen once they can have these new filming protocols. Especially, I'm so fearful for Picard here in LA. I mean, they're up in Santa Clarita, but still, people have to commute in unless they're going to pod live. And they may be doing that. So, yeah, we talk about 2020. It's going to be remembered for a lot of things and a lot of the same things connected over different levels. And that spills over into entertainment. And of course, it spills over into Star Trek. And I would even add the fact that we got to watch any new Trek at all. And bottom line, the fact that we got to talk about any new Trek at all and all of these issues. Of course, I've been doing this since 2017. We've been doing Portal 47 globally since 2015. So I'm glad that the virtual infrastructure was here so that fandom could come over and take it. And if those of you who have been with me since back in March, and we talked about a couple weeks ago, looking back, some of this, if you were halfway had your ear to the ground, could see coming. That thank God this was happening now. If it had to happen, thank God a pandemic is happening now globally. A global pandemic is happening now, and not say 10 years ago. Even if the technology existed, how accessible would it be to the most people? Right, without having ham radio levels of computer gear, audio, visual, whatever. Thank God we're not on dial-up modems. So there we go, guys. Hey, I just want to thank you. That's what I got in. If you had a big surprise for 2020, feel free to keep talking about it here in the chat. I'll get to them. Of course, if you have an actual question for me, that's always good too. But I would be remiss if I did not start off here before we take our break and thank everybody. I don't know what happened. Maybe it was the holiday doldrums, but we took on a whole lot more new Patreons. So thank you guys. Thanks everybody. Blaze K, Robin Williams, Robin Williams. I wish Robin Williams was a Patreon from wherever he is now, but I'm very grateful for you too, Robin Wilson. Along with Lawrence Todd, Anne-Marie Siegel, Blake Arlington, Justin Porteous, and Nathaniel Robinson. And then our live wires, Rusty Harrell and Jared Cooper, Eli Irvin, Halbert Gunn Johnson, Jalen Bullock, Gary Williams, Robert McLean, and Casey Shafsky. Thanks a lot, guys. If you want to know what I'm talking about here or whatever, it's just a small way, $5 or $10 a month. I don't have a complicated Patreon because I've got other projects going. Patreon's a way creators of all kinds across the spectrum of creativity have a way for fans to support them. Subscriptions, one-off projects. This is a subscription, but you can stop and start it whenever. Patreon.com/Trekland Live. And I appreciate it. We've finally made some strides this year, and every little bit helps. And I thank you guys for everything you're doing there. And of course, around the rest of Trekland Life Support Live, we'll be back Saturday again with another topic. This week, we are picking a new topic. We've got to do this. We're looking at what we're doing. Maybe even I don't know. It's Dr. Ali. I just realized we haven't talked about what we're doing this week for sure yet, but Dr. Ali, Matu, and Dr. Trek, one of us is a real doctor, going boldly through uncertain times. Every Saturday live, just like right now where you're watching me, that's where Life Support Live is. 10 o'clock Pacific, 1 Eastern, 6 GMT, 7 Central Europe. Love to have you with us. We have a great chat community there too. The lifers are great. And you can go over to the Facebook page and find out what we're doing every week now that we're back in non-Fresh Trek times. And of course, season 6, we're back full bore with the Trek Files again. Audio podcast from Roddenberry. This week, guys, we have the daughter of Franz Joseph. We are talking everything about the roots of the blueprints and the tech manual and the revolution that it was in Star Trek and in pop culture in about 4 or 5 levels. You don't want to miss this. And yes, we did have to have more than one episode to talk about it. There's some cool documents, some letters back and forth between Franz Joseph Schnabelt and Gene. You don't want to miss that over at the Trek Files on Facebook or wherever you get your podcasts, although the documents are only at Facebook. Appreciate you all liking the page there, especially for a lot of you veterans of Nonfiction Fridays. You will love that, okay? And most of all, wherever you are right now on YouTube, that's my Twitter handle, at Larry Nemecek. If you're with us on Facebook right now, that's my Instagram, Larry Nemecek's Trekland. And of course, portal47.net, if you just want to skip all this nonsense and come deep dive with the Portales every month. It's a whole package every month, like a mini-con every month, all the time. Guys, I'm going to take a break here. If you're on YouTube, thanks for joining us here. Thanks for watching a half-hour thing on YouTube. Sometimes I hope it's worth it. More than like 30 seconds, 3 minutes attention span. But if you're with us live or if you're on Facebook, I'll be right back with the Paired Analytics ratings this week on Discovery and Around the Horn. And then we'll get to the live chat that we see here, okay? So guys, listen, as always, crazy times. 2021. I'm so glad the new year is totally different than last year. No. Stay healthy out there. Be smart. Stay woke. Check your sources. And of course, that just means trek well, everybody.